as a public speaking professor in 2016 is to give you the skills that will serve you well in a job, serve you well in some sort of real life situation outside of public speaking, and we've gotten to a point that you really can't leave this class without knowing how to deploy PowerPoint in such a way that your audience doesn't want to bang themselves in the head with a hammer to make it stop, right? So, don't put up a book, Carnival of Distraction. So, things to keep in mind as far as submitting a PowerPoint to me. There are some things that I'm going to take right off the table right now to cut down on this Carnival of Distraction. A lot of people, I put these on the board and they're like, oh, that's no fun. I know, I'm going to kill everyone's dreams right now. But here's what's going to happen. There is no clip art anywhere in your PowerPoint presentation. And here, I see 7 sad faces already. Here is why. If you are giving a speech on climate change, global warming, or something like that, is your speech aided at all by a picture of a big old sun with sunglasses on, sweating, going, phew, with his little sun arms? No, it is not. It makes your presentation look cheap and tacky. So, there is no such thing as clip art. So, what kinds of things, instead of the clip art of the sun going, woo, and like a thermometer going with all the mercury out the top of it, what kinds of images, if I wanted to include them, do you suppose that I should include instead? Ashley?
Maybe like pictures from like actual information, like informative articles or things that actually have some information.
Here's what I'm going to say. Do include actual photographs. Those things are great. So, do include actual photographs. So instead of like, whoo, I'm trying to do this speech on how the earth is warming up, I better load up the clip art, son. Instead, find actual photographs of here's where the icebergs were in 1980, and here's where they were in 1990, and 2000, and 2010, and you can see what is happening, right? Much more informative, much more engaging, and it makes your PowerPoint presentation look much more sophisticated, right? So, other things that I'm going to take off the table are sound effects. No sound effects, please. So, no sound effects. There's no reason to include a sound effect in a PowerPoint presentation. If you need some kind of audio to come from a video that you're playing as part of your PowerPoint presentation, not like laser sounds every time something else comes up. So it's one of the most distracting ways to do it. Clip art, sound effects, and then what I'm going to say is distracting transitions, right? Now, the default transition on PowerPoint, first of all, how many of you have built a PowerPoint presentation before? Okay, so some of you, most of you. The default is to have the slides go, like, just appear on the screen. And you have the option of having them like slide in or fade out. That's fine, right? It's sort of, pixelation is kind of on the edge, right? If you're gonna have a slide like come in from the side or fade in and fade out, that's fine.
No, that's what I was saying. That's a little much.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna say that's right at the limit, right? Like just a little much, because PowerPoint gives you like 50 options. It can like swirl in like a spiral, and you can come in like a Batman newspaper, like da 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 da, like this. So again, make sure that the focus is 100% on you. I'm gonna come back to that idea though about the focus being 100% on you when it comes to deciding whether or not you should use a PowerPoint presentation. So. What do you suppose are some other do's and don'ts of PowerPoint presentation? Bree.
I have a question about transitions.
Yeah.
Does that include like when the title and stuff and the points come in? Like how you can like bounce them in or
Yeah, like a boing, 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 boing. Yeah.
Is that okay?
Don't do it. So they can slide in, they can fade in. They should not do cartwheels. Okay, that's what I'm gonna say.
From space.
Exactly. Kobe.
I guess I could do when you're doing like a presentation to slides. If it was me, like I would just put the topic of what that specific thing I'm talking about, and then just put like the main idea, like the main sentence from it.
Yes.
There, and just elaborate on that.
If you're going to use any kind of text, I'm going to complicate your idea of how this happens here too. Kobe, you're exactly right. Make sure that you, in order to avoid putting up a book in your PowerPoint presentation, simply put keywords up instead. And we're talking like 2 or 3 per slide, but this is what you're here's the thing that I am talking about right now in like big, giant, clear font, right? I'm going to complicate your understanding of this a little bit because we're going to look at an example here. This computer has reset. That should be very useful to you as well. So start getting this loaded while I'm talking. Yes, keywords, instead of just putting up word for word your entire speech, is definitely a do when it comes to PowerPoint presentation. What else? Yes, Barrett.
Don't have the same background for every slide.
All right. Okay, so let's talk about that. As far as consistency goes, make sure that first of all, if you've never built a PowerPoint presentation, let me tell you, and anyone here can tell you too, there are pre-made templates in PowerPoint presentation where the color layout is already picked for you, the font is picked for you, all this great stuff. Do not be afraid to modify those templates because I have been amazed at some of the templates that I have found as far as their design really sucking, basically. And the first part is, and again, I don't mean to condescend when I ask this question, but this concept has eluded software engineers at Microsoft Corporation. Class, if you have a dark background, should the words you put on that background be dark or light?
Light.
Very good. Follow-up question number 2. If you have a light background, should the text be light or dark?
Dark.
Dark. So make sure that you contrast your text and your background. So contrast text and background. And a lot of the preloaded templates in Microsoft Word do not do this for you. I've been amazed at the ones that'll have like a light blue background, and when you start typing, it's light yellow text. No one is going to see that. Be on row 2. As soon as you put it up on the board, no one is going to know, right? Go ahead.
Don't put like an insanely hard readable scripted font or something insane where it's
Yes. Let's talk about fonts a little bit. And this is the part that does kind of crush my dreams a little bit, because I love fonts. Like in another life, I was a graphic designer or something like that. Like, to download them from the internet, it's a problem, right? And so I understand that there are lots of cool fonts out there to make everything look great. Like even driving around the city, I'm amazed how many apartment complexes use like one of the 3 or 4 basic fonts in Microsoft Word, you know, like Papyrus or Arial or something like that. Like I'm literally that insufferable font nerd. Like as I'm driving down and see Smiles on Beach Boulevard going, Times New Roman, and like driving past the Wolf Creek apartments on Beach Boulevard like, Papyrus? Who uses that? It's really great. All my friends love spending time with me. So, but here's the problem when it comes to fonts in PowerPoint. Here's how computers deal with this. So if I'm sitting at home, right, and I'm making a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to use one of my classy, beautiful, not well-known fonts, right, to make a PowerPoint presentation. What happens when I transfer it to this computer is the font does not transfer. What happens is, all that transfers is instructions to use that particular font that I selected at home. So if I load so I've got that font installed on my computer at home, but if I transfer it to this computer is going to go, and look through its font library and go, I'm just going to pick the thing that's closest to it, I guess, since we don't have that font installed on this computer. This one, and it won't look as good. Or you will encounter absolute disaster because, like Kobe said, there are really fancy scripted fonts out there. And back when I was teaching humanities, I still required oral presentations and speeches and that kind of thing. So as you can tell, I believe in it. I think it's a very important life skill. And so I had them give speeches on some kind of topic that we were dealing with in humanities, right? And so one of my students, she did her PowerPoint presentation on Gothic literature, okay? So those of you that have taken humanities before, what is Gothic literature? Anybody remember? I see 8 looks panicked right now. So, Gothic literature, anyone remember an example of Gothic? Barrett?
Would that be like Edgar Allan Poe?
Yes, Edgar Allan Poe was one of our major American Gothics. Gothic literature was basically, it explored sort of like the dark, you know, roiling side of humanity inside all of us by personifying that evil and darkness as a literal monster, right? So Bram Stoker's Dracula, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the works of Edgar Allan Poe, they dealt with the darker side of humanity, often by personifying that darker side of humanity and making it a literal character that the good protagonist had to fight against. So that's Gothic literature in a nutshell. And so she was doing her whole thing on the Gothic movement, and she had put so much time into this PowerPoint presentation. Like, she downloaded this subtle but very interesting, like, haunted house background on the background of the PowerPoint, and she had downloaded this font that had like an eyeball in the P and some fangs on the R and blood dripping off of the O and all of this stuff. So what happened was, when she loaded the PowerPoint presentation up, this computer went, I don't have blood drippy fang eyeball font. I'm gonna pick the one that is closest to that, and it settled on the font Wingdings. Now, and you're all making that sound because for those of you that don't know, what is the Wingdings